Water. The resource remains as the main vital substance for nearly everything on Earth. It helps us satisfy our thirst, helps us produce items, helps nature to thrive, and is the most important life force that contributes to the Earth. The conservation topic we shall be discussing is a place in Australia where you would not expect to find any water. Located on the eastern part of Australia and occupying 22% of Australia, is a natural attraction that has been unheard of for millions of years. I'm Alex, and this is Ecolab. Welcome back everyone to another Ecolab video. Today we shall be discussing the conservation issue of the Great Artesian Basin. Now before we get right into it, let's briefly discuss the history and facts about the Great Artesian Basin. Okay, simply the Great Artesian Basin is underground reservoir of water found in parts of Queensland, New South Wales, Northern Territory and South Australia. Before Australia existed, the continent was once connected to a megacontinent known as Gondwana 160 million years ago. During this time, plate tectonics caused Australia and other continents to split. Following the split, climatic events caused ocean levels to rise, flooding what we now know as the Great Artesian Basin. Over time, the ocean levels returned to their usual position, causing the trapped water to be absorbed underground. An impermeable layer later developed above the trapped water, preventing the water from returning to the surface. However, rivers still running didn't succumb to this change. Carrying sand and gravel, it turned the river's layers into sandstone, or better known as aquifers. This layer acts as a fracture on the surface, allowing surface water to be drained into the basin, which stabilizes the springs it is connected to. Okay, so now we know what it is, but what does it mean to us? Well, having water being the most important natural resource, everything. Water is the key to all life. Without it, we would not be here. Everything that you own, water plays such an important role, such as your food, paper, phones, watches, cars, you name it. The Great Artesian Basin itself is such an important asset as it supplies inland households, livestock and agriculture drinkable and clean water. The source is the perfect tool for survival in the harsh deserted lands. So why has this area become a conservation issue, you may ask? To answer this question, we must first discuss the past. Returning briefly back to the year 1878, the first bore in Bourke, New South Wales was drilled. As you would expect, it yielded water and was the start of a really bad idea. From the year 1899 to 1915, residents and landowners in these areas had constructed approximately 1,500 free-flowing bores to supply their cattle, crops, and themselves with fresh, clean water. With water being discharged freely from the basin, risks began to appear. Management of this water was not considered at the time, causing mass loss of water and decline of pressure in the basin. In 1891, a legislation was proposed in Queensland as the water issue was posing problems. Sadly, the upper house declined the proposal, stating that the water was being recharged from the surface rainfall somehow, somewhere, and that there was no cause for concern. It wasn't until 1954 that a report on the Great Artesian Basin was published to the affected states in controlling the flow of water. By 1999, government funding and the GABCC offered assistance in capping and repairing the uncontrollable bores, having $31.8 million funded over 5 years. By understanding the history, the main concern that started the conservation management of the Great Artesian Basin was the water usage and water wastage. Thankfully, since 1999, approximately 759 bores have been capped or are currently being successfully controlled by the GABCC and volunteers, returning 253,000 million litres per annum to the basin, but there are still many more bores in the GAB that are active. With constant water being drained from the basin, the obvious risk is decrease of pressure in the basin and decline of water volume in the future. Further issues can then lead to salinization or solarization, which then can lead to loss of biodiversity around the bore. Not only do the environmental values come into view, but so do the social values. More than 70 towns, as well as most pastoral stations and mining operations in the region, rely on the basin water. If this source of water were to disappear, industries and towns would be abandoned, critically affecting the current situation in Australia. Pastoral businesses alone use up to 500,000 million litres per year. Although most of it is lost through seepage and evaporation, usage can be better managed. Though talk of water wastage is generally involved with the GAB, a new threat has recently appeared in Australia and poses serious health risks to human consumption of the basin's water and the ecosystem. Coal seam gas, or CSG mines, is the new form of energy in Australia and has the potential to contaminate and reduce water levels in the aquifers. The process known as fracking is used in extracting the gas, which uses basin water mixed with chemicals and sand that fractures coal deposits, releasing methane gases. In many cases, this can lead to contamination with the water and depressurization. The project aired an episode regarding the CSG in 2013, and what they showed was the industry and the harm it has to the social and environmental values. Greenhouse gases, fragmentation of habitats, and altering of landscapes are only the few factors that can appear in the industry. Although government approve of the mine, certain environmental regulations have made it that a limit of water is to be extracted from the basin and that on-site bore infrastructure are to be improved. Acts and policies such as the Environmental Protection Act 1994, Environmental Protection Water Policy 2009, and many others currently protect the basin from becoming a dumping ground for waste. The Great Artesian Basin is currently undergoing changes and not much has been done to help it. Department of Agriculture and Water Resources Queensland have recently begun drafts for the new Strategic Management Plan 2018 to 2033 for the Great Artesian Basin. With a new reform plan emerging soon and new problems arising, it is the perfect time for new objectives and tasks to be considered to protect the basin water. that is all for today. Thank you for watching Ecolab and enjoy the rest of your day.